Hello there. Welcome to the Maker Manager Money podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders, business owners, and business partnerships, from startups to stay-ups, to inspire entrepreneurs to keep going and future entrepreneurs to just start. My name is Kyle Knowles, and on today's episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming Glen Calvert, one of the founders of Kaizan AI. Kaizan is an AI client intelligence platform that aims to increase client satisfaction and retention. Glen is a commercially minded CEO with a wealth of experience in the corporate world and a passion for leveraging AI to augment people, particularly frontline teams. With a background in traditional publishing, online advertising, and the esports industry, Glen brings a unique perspective to the world of AI startups. I look forward to diving into Glen's entrepreneurial journey and the potential of AI models for client priorities and pain points. To learn more about Glen and his company, you can visit his Kaizan.com website. That's KAIZAN.ai. Welcome to the Maker Manager Money podcast, Glen.
Carl, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. Did I get that mostly right? Were there any inaccuracies in that introduction?
That's spot on. Kaizan.ai, KAIZAN.ai is the domain name. But yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you. I think I said Z instead of Z, but I'm American, and so I probably got that wrong, but thank you. Thank you for the correction. So, Glen, what inspired the founding of Kaizan AI, and how do you plan to leverage AI to augment frontline teams?
Yeah, the founding of Kaizan really has been, like, many points on the journey have led to this moment and led to this startup. It's the third venture that I've had the pleasure of being involved in starting and scaling. And in the last sort of 15 years, from the very first job all the way through to the last startup, which exited, had sort of seen and felt the same problem over and over again, and spent so much time in building products, taking it to market, selling it, and then you have these cherished customers and clients, and you need to scale them, you need to scale the revenue of the business, and it's a constant work in progress to nurture it and make sure that everything's going in the right direction. It's a lot of effort. There's a lot of coaching of the teams and a lot of management of the teams, and I've always just been intrigued by this concept of the idea that if you was to leverage the collective intelligence of an organization, all of the knowledge, all of the qualities of every individual, and surface that to every individual throughout the day, you probably get a very good commercially minded client service manager, account manager, sales manager. And that played on my mind for many, many years, just thinking of all the coaching I was doing and all the management of teams I was doing, and just thought, you know what? Imagine if you could have me times 10 on every single person's shoulder every single minute of the day. So that was at the back of my mind for a few years. And then language models came along, and we realized, we could probably realize the dream. So Kaizan went from an idea that had been in the back of our minds for a while to starting up. And then for the last 24, 30 months, we've been figuring things, building the product, building the models, building the data sets, really understanding what the problem is. And we're away. And so far, so good.
Awesome. And so when did you launch?
We have launched, yeah. So we deliberately made a decision we knew this space would move really, really fast. And because we'd done startups before, we realized that you really want to understand the size of the problem first, because an idea is good, but it's all down to the execution. And what you don't want to do is execute on a problem that's actually quite a small problem. I mean, it sounds good, and potential buyers will be like, yeah, they're interested in it. But startups are 5, 10, 15-year journeys. So you really want to make sure you're on the right path, and you want to sense check that and understand it. So we made a deliberate decision in the back end of 21. We said, look, we can see what's coming around the corner with language models. Let's build a little alpha prototype, and let's go to client service teams and let them play with it. But let's also go to engineering managers and marketing managers and sales managers and product managers and operations managers, and just basically sense check that how we think about this is the correct way. And then from there, we got some more insights. And then in 2022, we could really sort of piece together what this would look like. And at the same time, language models and AI was sort of scaling exponentially. And in 2023, we've basically sort of had the beta product in a good place, paying customers on the right path. And then we'll reveal Kaizan to the world this year, and let sort of anyone come in and use the product. So it's been a 2 or 3 year journey to make sure we're on the right path, which has been I think it's been the right decision to make, because the space moves so fast, it moves so quickly that you could spend 6 months building a particular product that could be completely replaced tomorrow by what a foundational model can do. So you've got to really deeply understand the use case, the problem space, and how to approach it.
That makes sense. And I've seen so many changes just since ChatGPT was sort of launched to the world a little over a year ago. So have you built this platform to be sort of LLM agnostic, or have you tried out different LLMs and found one to be better than the other?
So we have tried many of them. We are language agnostic. I think it's the right thing to do. We've created a platform specifically to be able to plug and play different models. When it comes to anything to do with generative AI, context is everything. The more context you can provide to a model, the better the output's going to be. So there's actually more work to be done on the infrastructure and the scaffolding required to get all the context you need from multiple data points, multiple data sets, have some understanding of what are the right elements to then send to a model, what are the right things to send to the prompts, and then prompt a different model to do different things. And again, we thought that was the best approach. And I think because the space is growing so fast, you can't go all in on one particular API or only train your own open source model, because tomorrow there could be a variety that comes out that you're not even thought about. So you need to be interoperable with different models and have them, and also not just have one model in general that you're using, but different models for different tasks. And I think you're seeing this, come to fruition now, where you've got models for particular tasks and other models to sense check that model's output. And you have other models that are doing things around security and checking for on that side. So yeah, many models doing multiple things, but critically, context is king. Context is everything. The better the information you can pass through, the more you can pass through, the better the output you're gonna get.
All right, and it seems like you have client service experience in your background.
Yes.
So can you talk about your entrepreneurial journey? You've talked about, I believe, did you say 3 other startups before Kaizan? And how you sort of went from maybe university, or back in the day, did you have entrepreneurial spirit even in your youth, and kind of just walk through your entrepreneurial journey, including your client services experience leading up to Kaizan?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably was always going to be an entrepreneur without really understanding what that meant or what that would entail. But I remember finishing university, heading off traveling for, I think it was like 18, 20 months, doing a variety of things in the US, in Asia, in Australia, and some of the Pacific Islands, having a great time, just enjoying myself, but realizing that at a certain point in the not too distant future, life's going to get real. I'm going to go back to the UK, back to London, and have to figure out what I was going to do with myself. And that happened while I was away traveling, and I was just playing with a bunch of ideas. What do I like? What are the areas I'm interested in? What are the areas that I like? And I remember distinctly thinking, and this is very, very basic in terms of my thought process, but I was sitting there reading a bunch of magazines on a beach somewhere, thinking, I like magazines. Magazines are fun. They come out every month. They're interesting. They're topical, and I'm interested in lots of things with sport and technology. And I thought, okay, let's look at that. So when I came back, I just Google what does it take to work at a publishing company, and the very first thing that pops up, the easiest thing that you can do at a publishing company is obviously not be an editor and not write content, but actually be sales and go into brands and agencies and sell the space that you've got inside the magazine. And this is, to be mindful, this is 15, 20 years ago. So it was magazines. The internet was just coming about. So yeah, came back from traveling. Okay, magazines. Let's have a look at that, and then got a job, fortunately, at a publishing company called Dennis Publishing. Dennis Publishing is a quite a well-known UK publishing company. It's founded by Felix Dennis, who's a very well-known British entrepreneur. He was crazy. He was highly successful. He was in the top 100 sort of richest men in England for many, many, many years. And the culture at Dennis Publishing was just entrepreneurship. You know, they were there, they were the outsiders, they were super successful, but it was not corporate. And you just instantly was in this culture around, you know, you were given responsibility and you was given an opportunity to carve your own way with what you were doing. And that instantly impacted me. So I got that job and I realized, and then basically the internet's coming along and you've got all these guys selling sort of iPod accessories and things on the internet, and you're selling advertising space to them. I'm realizing these guys are younger than I am. Okay, I need to do something about this. So I was probably about 24 at the time. And a friend of mine from school had an idea that he was playing with, and I was playing with some ideas. And we got together, and when we were 25 years old, we started an internet advertising business. And again, it was the right time to be doing it because most brands were thinking, I've got to start, advertising online. Usage was Facebook had just started and things were scaling. And brands and advertisers had this crazy epiphany that they could track things before you book ad space in newspapers and magazines, and you were told, you would fingers crossed things would work. I mean, the internet comes along and you could track the clicks, and people's minds were totally blown by this. So we launched a personalized retargeting business. So it would go to retailers and e-commerce companies, and then as people would leave those websites, we could then hit them up with adverts, personalized based on what they'd looked at. They'd click back through. The company scaled super fast from 4 of us. I'm in a little office in Soho. No internet. We had to sort of borrow internet from someone else's office and have all the cables coming out down the window, the side of the building, into the through the window. We had desks made of old cupboards. It was a proper startup, and it was awesome. And scaled very quick. Went from 4 of us to sort of 60, 70 people in 24 months, and just done very, very well. And that company was sold to a US business. And in doing that and building that business at quite a young age, ton of knowledge, ton of experience. And I was still entrenched in media at that time. So the next startup was created, which was another advertising business. And again, quite successful. We had offices around the world, and we just took that concept, made it a bit bigger and a bit wider. And at this point, most brands, most agencies would spending a lot of money and focusing on digital advertising and digital marketing, and in particular programmatic, which was real time. How do you, like a stock exchange, do you bid in real time on particular ad units and places, and a whole bunch of knowledge around what you're doing. So built that business, which exited as well. So my knowledge on client service and account management, you're building these technology companies and you're thinking about where the opportunity is. But at the end of the day, these clients, yes, they're going to come back if you're performing, but it's also down to how good the service is and how good you are with ideas and adding value to their business, not only just the ROI on the spend and the money that they're providing to you. So I sort of viscerally felt and learned about building sales and account management and client service teams on that journey. So that sort of really helped inform Kaizan. But during COVID, I was taking some time to plan what effectively has become Kaizan. And a friend of mine works at an esports team, and he just raised a Series A round of money. He wanted to sort of take all of the hundreds of millions of fans they had and have you sort of commercialize them better. I'd just come off a decade of building commercial teams that were selling into brands and agencies. He said, look, we've got all this audience here. You understand advertising and commercial sort of execution and scaling up beyond the UK. Come and spend some time here. I had no clue about esports whatsoever, but I knew it was super interesting. I knew the space was growing really fast. And before I knew it, I was the COO of an esports team. And the timing obviously was impeccable because COVID came along, gaming took off, and we had a lot of fun, and we a lot of success, and worked with the biggest brands in the world, introducing them to esports and coming up with some amazing activations. And again, just reinforced the pain points I'd seen around client service and account management, but also just helped me learn and broaden my horizons outside of just pure play marketing. And then that brings us up to sort of 2021 when we thought, right, okay, The future is going to be AI. The future is going to be a lot of client interaction digitally. Let's launch Kaizan, and away we went.
All right. Thanks for talking about your journey. Just for the audience's sake and for my sake too, can you explain a little bit what esports is? What is that? Esports, electronic sports. I assume the E stands for, but
yeah, sure thing. So esports is competitive gaming. So we've all gamed, we've all played on consoles or PCs or mobiles, and certain games become so popular and so big, and the publisher or the developer of that game actually thinks I could create a professional league around this. And that's esports. It's professional gaming. And it started off with, as you can imagine, everyone sort of coming together with their PCs and these LAN events and connecting all their PCs and then playing games together. And it got to a certain, and then have prize money around that. And then it obviously just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's got so big now where it's different to traditional sport. In traditional sport, you've got like a governing body that understands, sets the rules for the sport, but no one really owns the sport. And then you've got teams that compete in these structured leagues. And it's a very similar analogy with esports, but someone does own the actual sport. That's the game publisher. So they can create the league. They can decide to say, okay, let's take, for example, League of Legends, which is probably the biggest esport in the world. And Riot Games will say, okay, we've got tens of millions of users. They're all competing. Let's create an actual league around this. So Riot Games will create a regional league in the US and Europe and Asia, and then all compete and they'll play in the World, which is basically the yearly tournament. And then you've got tournament organizers that help create, because it's quite difficult to run an esports event. Then you've got the teams, and where I worked as COO was one of the teams called Fnatic. And each team would then turn up to these tournaments, they'd compete, there's prize money, there's sponsorship, there's merchandise, there's ticketing, etc., etc. And then you would compete and you do very well. A few things are super interesting around it is the audience. There is, tens of millions of people watching on Twitch or going direct to the publisher to watch it. So the audience numbers are absolutely huge. And there's a second revenue stream that you don't really get inside traditional sport, which is in-game. So all of the items inside the games, teams can sell, like their branded jerseys and branded items. So not only are you getting money from sponsors and the usual ways you make money in sports, but you've also got this in-game economy that's appearing as well. So yeah, super interesting. We had 100 professional gamers on the books, competing in, I think, 9 different teams, anything from FIFA, the football game, soccer game, all the way through to League of Legends. And super fun, super interesting.
So you were organizing a lot of things, not only like as a general manager of a team, you were helping with recruiting and the branding and the advertising and selling jerseys and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so how we broke, it was broken down by, you'd have like individuals that would own particular areas. So Patrick, one of the co-founders of Fnatic, or one of the early, actually a guy called Patrick, he was one of the early players in one of the first teams for a team called Counter-Strike. He then became one of the managers and owners. So he'd be in charge of all of esports and all of the basically hiring players, firing players, selling them, and all of the issues that come with the talent. So exactly like American football or soccer or any sport, there's issues with talent. There's the ones who are getting paid more than others and they don't like it. The ones who don't want to do anything to do with sponsors. So Patrick would look after basically the sports aspect. And then I would specifically look after more the business side. So, okay, what are we doing with sponsors? What are we doing with content? How are we making money? And then just the back office operations. And then you had an e-commerce and a brand department, and their job was to go, right, how do we tell the narrative and the story through content? How do we monetize that content through merchandise and digital items? So we had multiple departments doing multiple things. So yeah, and then you've got multiple teams as well. So there's a lot of things that are going on different time zones across the sporting side, the commercial sponsorship side, the e-commerce side, and then just the branding side and how you're sort of activating the brand itself and your sponsors, and trying to tie this all together across multiple teams, multiple talent, and influencers. It was super fun.
That sounds like a blast. And Twitch was the primary channel where people could watch the sport?
Yeah, Twitch was, yes. So for the most part, Twitch would be where you did have other streaming platforms in China that have got a big audience, but the problem was that once you've got your, similar to YouTube or Spotify, where you build your audience, it's difficult to move them away from that. So a lot of the players that we had, we get big offers to go to streaming platforms in China, but they wouldn't want to do it because the audience, their audience was on Twitch. And then if a game developer is organizing a tournament, they would, for the most part, have an agreement with Twitch. Twitch would stream it, and they would basically take a cut of the revenue. Riot, runs League of Legends, which is the biggest esport and game in esports, they have their own streaming platform. So you'd often get these multiple streams going on their own platform, but also sort of co-stream with Twitch. And that's the challenge with esports because there's no media rights per se. In most sports, you've got the media rights, and that money floods down to the leagues and floods into the teams. Doesn't really exist in esports. It's a video native product. Every minute you're playing, you're creating content, but it's given away for free and it's streamed for free. So you don't really make much from the streaming side. It was more around get the eyeballs in for free, and how do you monetize them? Well, you can monetize them through winning tournaments, brands, and sponsors, and then the if you can do anything around in-game and the digital items and commerce and things like that.
Okay. Well, thanks for the explanation. That's really fascinating. It sounds like you had a blast doing that, especially during COVID. And then how did you get introduced to AI?
My co-founder of Kaizan, Pravin, and also who was the co-founder of the last startup that we did together, he's 20 years in natural language processing and 20 years in being quite a senior software engineer. So very experienced, very knowledgeable, with a particular passion for natural language processing. So we did this in our last startup, and it was basically how to use the language that you see inside web pages to infer what the topics are and what the content is. And that was called natural language processing, which has evolved into what we now would refer to as large language models that obviously are a lot smarter and intelligent in what they can do. So he had a lot of knowledge in the space. And during COVID, we were going back and forwards with our ideas and about what the next startup would entail and how we'd approach it. And he got early access to what OpenAI were doing with their models. And we were looking at the articles that were coming out about how GPT-3 was improving, for example. And he obviously knew a lot around the space. So it wasn't my knowledge directly that was deep around AI. It was more of a passing interest. I'd read up a lot about it and then sort of have that validated by my co-founder who did understand more about it. And that's where we got to, you could see where the puck was going, and you could see that it was kind of inevitable that these breakthroughs would happen and that you'd get to the exponential scale. But we did not envisage the veracity of the speed it's appeared, especially since sort of ChatGPT came out and that sort of took the world by storm. It was still well known before then. I think it's a good marker for everyone to think of ChatGPT as like that's when it sort of went mainstream. But there were still people doing a lot of interesting stuff before then, and we've been playing around for 12 months with the models and building the business. But no one expected, I think, what you're seeing now in terms of that exponential curve of capabilities. That is surprising. That is, and if you even this week with what's going on with Gemini from Google in terms of the size of the tokens you can send into the system, and also with OpenAI and their new video prompt to video model. So I think that's surprised everyone at just how fast things are moving. The question will be, does it continue, or do we have the usual plateau? Do we have a lot of everyone super excited now, but then we realize the use cases there is on the journey to AGI? Is it going to plateau? Do we have to find new ways to unlock the next step? But cat's out of the bag. This is now the norm. I mean, you will fundamentally see a shift in how people use software, how people work because of it. So that's inevitable. It's just about how fast things are going to go, and then what it will actually entail inside the workplace, and what new products will be created that we couldn't even envisage before it existed.
What's the thing that surprised you the most about AI?
I would say, I think the capabilities of video is the speed at which that's progressing is I didn't see coming, and the knock-on effects there are huge, because there is huge industries that exist around content creation, whether it be marketing, entertainment, and the ability to create anything you want in video form now. And it will, and again, if you've seen what's in the last 18 months, that improvement, where that's going to be 18 months from now and then 5 years from now. So that to me really is striking. And I also think when new technology comes along, there's normally like a 5-year period for it to sort of bed in. I think we saw this with the internet, that you have this rapid growth from early adopters, sort of a bit with mobile as well, with social. And when it comes to AI, you're seeing people moving a bit faster to go from prototype and understanding into genuinely deploy this and use this within our business. So I think the willingness to accept it inside corporations and enterprises is a good thing, and happening at a speed that we like, because obviously we want to sell to these guys. But I definitely say on the capability front, it's video.
Okay, it is surprising, and I haven't been playing around with. Believe it's called Sora. Is it Sora?
Yeah.
An open AI. But I look forward to playing with it more over the next few weeks. So I guess when you look at Kaizan, how have these advances changed the way that you're either, I don't know, deploying code, writing code, or running the business since you started in 2021? How have the advances in AI changed the way you're doing business or running your company?
Yeah, it's a very good question. When we first started, we were doing a lot on fine-tuning, our own models and proprietary models like OpenAI. So we would put a lot of time and effort into fine-tuning what you send. What does a good action item look like after a conversation, for example, and a back-end infrastructure that would enable annotators to come in and basically create better prompts and better fine-tuning. And what we've seen is actually that's now a bit redundant, because the quality of the models is so good. You don't need to per se fine-tune, what's the best action item from these particular conversations. The sweet spot is more what we call the scaffolding. It's extracting different data sets from different areas that are disparate and bringing them together and sending them into a model. So the model themselves got so good that if you're now doing the smart thing to do is pull in the different data sets from different areas. So we started off with fine tuning and doing our on our own models, and then we realized, look, actually let's be just model agnostic, and let's get very good at what we call the scaffolding. Let's get very good at, if you're going to build a very solid solution to go into a company and say, do you want to build an AI that enhances your client service team and eventually build your own autonomous account manager, your own autonomous client service manager? Then that entails multiple integrations. We've got to think around security and privacy. We have to think around the different data sets to use to make recommendations or to do some generation for them, how to do the best answers to questions that come in from clients. It's more to do then with the scaffolding of the technology and the data you're using than it is like which model should we be choosing. So that has been a big lesson for us, that if you get very good at building a very good user experience and all of the scaffolding and the infrastructure, then you've got quite a big advantage, because then the data flows and the data models are all in place, and all you've got to do is plug and play with different and test different models and see, okay, is Anthropic better than OpenAI? Or if we use Llama versus Mistral with these different data points, what do we get out of it? So we put so much more effort now into the data pipelines and the infrastructure that enables us to plug and play different models for different outputs. And then the other side of it is the users. You've got to speak to them, you've got to understand what they're interested in, what's valuable, what's not valuable, what their pain points are. Gen AI doesn't need to solve every pain point. There could be other things that don't actually require any chat interface or language model. It could be just very basic prompts and notifications based on that helps them. So we spend a lot of our time with users, speaking to users, responding to users, really understanding what the user experience is that they want, because the UX is a really important point when it comes to this next sort of 20 years of software. There's going to be sort of AI first. Is the user experience is going to change fundamentally from what we've been so used to with project management boards and CRM and point and click software, that will move into this more intentional user experience where it can do things. We don't work for the software, it works for us, and we'll tell it what we need. And also offer things that we need to do based on what it knows about us and all our what it knows about us. So we're going to get very good at the user experience. And you only do that by speaking to people. So yeah, in terms of, if I could summarize what we've learned, is you've got to just you've got to move fast, get the feedback quickly, build the right infrastructure so you can move fast and test and learn, and then be in a position to trial and error, try different models, try different data sets, and see what works best for users.
All right. Thanks for the explanation. So pretend I'm a director of client services for let's say a marketing agency, and I've got a bunch of account managers managing clients. How does Kaizan then come in? Talk me through like how a director of client services would engage with Kaizan and what you would do for that particular company.
Sure. We'd start off by asking them what's the biggest issue or pain point area that they're looking at. And it will normally be 3 buckets that are mentioned. One is, I have no true understanding of the health of our client relationships. Second will be around growth. How do I get more revenue from our clients? And third would be more around resource allocation and productivity. So if you can imagine, you've got sort of 100 account managers across the world. You don't really know what they're working on which clients, and is that the right thing or not? So once you understand those 3 buckets of the resource allocation and productivity, the revenue growth or client health, and what they're struggling with, then we will basically can address that through Kaizan. So what it is an AI assistant specifically for the account management team. They log in, they sign in, they bring their meeting assistant. They get a meeting assistant as part of that. Their email gets plugged in, and from there, all communication with clients is run through different models to do different things. One's doing sentiment classification, sentiment analysis. One's understanding the objections. One's understanding the really high sentiment moments and the low sentiment moments. We're looking at the response times. We're looking at the coverage around stakeholders and decision makers. We're looking at the productivity that they need to do throughout the day, post-call, pre-call, emails coming in. We're generating the answers for them. We're generating the copy for them. So it's effectively an AI system that can tackle those 3 areas. And then the CS leader, or the client service leader, will then lean in heavily and say, okay, for example, client health, I have no understanding. They're currently using a spreadsheet somewhere. Once a week, it's updated with these clients are in the red, or they're amber, or they're green. And then Kaizan comes along and gives them a real-time view of all client interaction, the quality of the interaction, the sentiment. And then through using it, they can say, well, you've shone a light on what the issues are. And I can now fine-tune the team, and I can fine-tune how we engage those clients. And then ultimately, it increases the time that's spent with clients, because we're taking care of the productivity side of things for them, and we're recommending who to engage with and how to engage with them. So you increase the quality of the relationships that you're building. So it's you plug in, build an AI assistant, and all of a sudden there's visibility on risks, opportunities, and it's taking care of a bunch of admin for the team. So it ticks off a few of the pain points that they've got, and we're just getting started. I think where all of our clients, I think this is super interesting, all of our clients have asked us to build this, is they have got so much knowledge, all these service companies out there, these agencies, these interesting businesses, so much knowledge to to provide to clients. And the problem is just bandwidth. They could bring more clients in, but they can't just throw more account managers at managing the clients. But they can still service them because they've still got they've got the internal smarts, the internal operations and process to deliver it. So they've actually, our clients have said to us, could you know, what does it take to build an autonomous account manager? So within our team of sort of 50 account managers, you're enhancing them. But is there an individual they could all, like an AI that sits within all of them they can communicate with? And it takes care of a bunch of the Q&A and the reporting on the long tail clients. So that's interesting because I think we're so used to in high touch relationship environments with clients, the client vendor relationship being person to person. But I think 5 years from now, that was AI enhanced, AI augmented will exist. Same way you go onto a retail website now and you engage with intercom and you ask questions and it will sort of give you answers. Where's my delivery? What's the issue here with my with what I've bought? And then now that's been taken care of with AI. So I think there's that customer support that's being done with AI. We'll see that move to client service as well. So enhance the relationship managers, but also take care of some of the mundane back and forth that happens.
All right. And I think it was McKinsey had sort of an internal AI thing going. I think they called it Lily, but they had 10,000 documents and now everyone can draw upon the knowledge that's in those 10,000 documents. Can you do something? What I was hearing is that you engage and then going forward, you have all the help from the Kaizan platform. Can you do anything where it's looking at historical data? There is a repository of, different meetings that have taken place, different memos that have been sent, those kinds of things, and then build kind of that knowledge base around that?
Yeah, exactly. So we've started with the area we find the hardest, which is the qualitative communication. So it's all the back and forth on calls, the back and forth on email and chat. So all of that language, it doesn't exist inside language models. So it's super interesting, super valuable. It's where the most interesting knowledge sits. Yes, there's good knowledge that sits onside the websites and all the internal documents. But because it's quite easy to do, you could very easily spin up a chat GPT that sort of responds and answers questions around your own internal documents. That exists now and people are doing that quite easily. It's harder to take all of the communication that's happening within a company and with clients. And there's a multitude of reasons why it's difficult. Language, accents, different individuals on different lines of communication, different email threads, different people on them. So how do you start to sort of extrapolate who belongs to which client or which project, and then really get through all of the gnarly bits around transcription and audio speech recognition? It's a big, hard problem to take that qualitative data set and bring it together in a way that you can make it useful for a company. Now, in the future, not far from now, we actually layer in all the other systems, their CRM, project management tools, HR systems, and anything that's to do with the internal reporting and documents they've got. But that stuff's a bit easier. That'll take a few engineers, 4 weeks. We're focused on the qualitative client vendor interaction data to start with. But it's a very interesting point because I think everyone's going to start to look at how do you throw models at all these data sets we've got in these companies. What does it end up looking like? I think multiple AIs within a business doing certain things. I think that's obvious. Then the AI starts to speak to each other, engage with each other. Then you have these AIs doing stuff externally when it comes to sales and lead generation. People are going to be on the other end, probably AIs blocking lead generation and sales AIs approaching them. So it's going to be interesting how this all plays out.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So the moat of differentiation for Kaizan, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, definitely. So number one is if customers and clients love what you're doing, that's the biggest moat. Like if they can come in and they can use the product, they can go if they don't like it. But if they're truly enjoying what you've built, that customer love translates into dollars, and it translates into referrals, and you build that. So the number one thing is, before you, I think it's wrong for going, how do I build a moat here? VCs love to say, what's the moat defensibility around this? And they want you to say something like, I've got this unique data set that no one has access to. But the reality, number one, is, do users love what we're doing? Number one. Two is in the brand. It's going to be so, what's the user experience? What's the brand? What do you stand for? How do you articulate that? What's unique about your brand? And critical within that is your community. So if you're going to build a brand now, it's to be, how do you build a community around that brand? How do you engage people into that? And then it reinforces and sells itself. So these are unquantifiable, but really, really important. And they can't be easily replaced. If you've got great customer love through product, and you've got a great brand and a community aspect to it, and great content around it, that's not easy to replace. So that's really, really important. And then outside of that, it's going to be start to layer in things to do with what data points you use, how you've understood which data points to use and feed to which model, and then that just, that's accretive performance that you can provide. Network effects will be part of that as well. I think we build an AI for companies to help them engage with their clients. So the more clients they engage with, the more Kaizen's understood by those clients, again spread by their clients to their clients, and we're seeing that network effect be pulled in now. But for me, I think that what I really want to get right with Kaizen is the brand, and they understand what it's, what we stand for in our mission. They want to be part of it, and we're known. If you're building an AI for client service, you've got to be very good at client service. Like, if you don't get that right, then you're going to fail. So our brands will be, we're selling quality client service and increasing your client service revenue. We've got to be very, very good at that. So that's what, if we get that right, then that is very difficult to beat by anyone who wants to spin up and try and do something in our space.
That's excellent. What other ways are you using AI? You're building AI into your platform, but what other ways are you using AI to help run your company?
Yeah. So when we go live, sort of come out of closed beta into a proper sales and marketing run, organization, we start to sort of take Kaizen to the world. We'll use it heavily for marketing. We'll use it heavily for content creation, content generation, and obviously sales and like lead generation and filtering of leads and lead creation. That's all to come. There's many people doing some interesting stuff in that space. How we currently use it is internally. It's a couple of ways. It's mostly productivity. So reporting. So we have a ton of information around how people use our products, and we send that through into different models to basically get insights from what we see within our own data. And then also easy triaging of information. So when X, Y, Z happens, please then create this and send it to that particular system. So quite, not anything super sexy or interesting, but just helps us make sure we're not doing anything manual. In the future, I think, it'd be on the marketing side. How do you build that brand and community, and you basically leverage a small team of really smart marketeers and sales team to leverage all of these tools? That will be a big part of what we do.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you've worked in maybe not corporate environments as much as entrepreneurial environments. But maybe you could still answer this question. What's the difference between being an entrepreneur and working corporate?
You're right to say that I've not worked in large corporates. So my comparison will be like a good educated understanding without deep entrenched knowledge. If you work in a startup or an SMB, or a scale up, you and your team have to be self-starters. You have to be able to take on. You're going to be positive. You're going to be proactive, and you're going to take on lots and lots of things. There'll be many plates spinning, and you've got to manage and spin those plates. And when stuff breaks, not let it affect you. In a corporate, it's a bit different. It's a bit slower, and you've got a particular swim lane that you've got to be a specialist in and go through and follow the process and make sure that you do it. So I think that's the biggest. It's the nature of the. And again, I've rarely hired people from large corporates into startups. I know that culturally it's very, very different. But my friends who run businesses have told me that they brought in someone from a big logo, and they walk in and they expect process to be there, people to be doing stuff for them because they've been used to swimming in their lane, doing their thing. That's not what it is with a startup. You've got to go from 0 to 1. You need people who can go from 0 to 1, who can create something from nothing, who can go through walls to make something come to life, which is you just can't do that if you're used to just swimming, doing your particular thing. I'm saying something against it, because in large corporates, that's what you need. You don't want just total chaos. You need people with deep expertise in particular areas to do what's required to make the well-oiled machine run at scale. But in a startup, it's different. You've got to find a way forward. So yeah, that's I mean, that's the biggest difference in the nature of the personality. That those people can't easily sit inside a corporate and stay in their swim lane. They've got to. It's not enough for them.
That makes sense. Thanks for answering that question. And I think you hit it right on the head. I'm sure you have friends that work in corporate as well, or I don't know, maybe all your friends are at startups, but I'm sure you know family members or someone that's worked in corporate. So thank you for answering that. So, Maker Manager Money is about inspiring, entrepreneurs to keep going, but also just future entrepreneurs just to start. So what's some advice that you would give to someone who wanted to start a side hustle or start a first business?
So loads of advice to provide here, and take some of it or little of it. I think the first thing is do it. So the one thing we don't get back is time. So if you've got an idea and you've got say there's an itch needs to be scratched, I think you should, for the most part, do it. I think that I would caveat that and say it depends on what you're doing. Side hustle's brilliant. If someone's got an idea around actually going into a startup, they are deeply difficult things to do. Very, very stressful. It's either total euphoria or total depression. It's just total chaos. And you've got to be ready to take a hit on the hardship you're going to be taking on for many, many years. So to do that, you've got to be deeply passionate and want to do it. It can't be I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a side. I've got a loose idea, and you do it for you try it, and it's like doesn't work. You've got to really, really care about what you want to do and the impact you want to have. But I think start. I think most of I've got a particular passion for them, because I think if you look at the growth of the human race and the productivity we have, it comes from people just starting, coming up with ideas, trying it, and then delivering it, and then that moves us all forward. And I'm all for more entrepreneurs trying more things, building more products, using more technology. The more tech that we build, the more product we build, the more value that we can create. So I'm deeply for people doing it. If you are going to do it, and you've got to then understand what you're getting yourself in for, and be ready for you've got to have thick skin, and you're going to get ready to handle the chaos, but ultimately it's the ultimate journey, because you'll look back and go on the lessons you learn, the knowledge you can create, the value you provide. I think the most fun I have is not only working on the product and seeing customers happy, but when you see a team around you that you've created and you've sort of pulled together, and they're working on hard problems, they're solving it, they're enjoying it. Nothing more rewarding than that. Users and customers saying they love what you're doing, throwing money at you because they love what it is, and then teams working on hard problems, and just brilliant to see. So yeah, I'd say go for it with some caveats, but you've got to be really ready for it.
Thank you. I love that answer. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I wanted to get to a lightning round of questions before we close off here. And first question for you is, are you a musician?
I used to be.
Describe that. What does that mean? Do you play an instrument? Were you in a band? Or
no? I played a bit of guitar in the past, but children and startups have hampered my my guitar playing.
Okay, how many children do you have, and what are their
ages? Two small boys, and one of them's quite into guitar, which is nice to see.
Okay, very nice. So maybe you'll pick it up again.
Definitely.
Awesome. Okay, favorite candy bar?
Oh, I'm going to say, do you have cream eggs in the US?
In the US, we don't. I'm not familiar with it.
Cadbury's do cream eggs for
Oh,
just
cream eggs. Cream eggs. Okay.
yeah,
Yes, we do. Around
cream
Easter.
eggs for
Okay.
Easter. The best candy bar.
So is it the one that's yellow cream inside or white cream inside? Or is it
White with a touch of
white?
yellow. So
Okay.
technically, I'm bending
Right.
the
It's
rules.
like an egg. It's when you
Exactly.
break it open.
I'm bending the rules on candy bar,
Okay.
but cream egg.
That will work. That will work. Candy. Yeah. Any candy is great. Favorite music artist?
So alive, I'm going to go with the Arctic Monkeys, and dead, I'm going to go with Jimi Hendrix.
Very nice. Favorite cereal?
Not a big cereal fan. I'll go with Frosties.
Okay. Mac or PC?
Mac.
Google or Microsoft?
Google.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Phantom or Les Mis?
Les Mis.
Okay. What's something that most people don't know about you?
This year, I am organising the Guinness World Record for the longest ever tug of war event. So my boys and some of their school friends wanted to raise money for charity and do it around events, and had the idea around the biggest tug of war event. And I approached the Guinness World Records, and they've approved the application, and we are now going to be doing that in the summer. So I haven't spread the word yet because I need to because I've been busy. But yeah, I will. People don't know that, but soon I'll be announcing that we're running the biggest kids tug of war competition that's ever taken place.
And it's going to take place where? In London?
In Kent, just outside London. Yes.
Okay.
We have to be. It's got to be. It's going to be a just shy of a kilometre in length. So it's going to be a lot of kids.
That is a lot of kids. That's really exciting. What's the book you recommend the most to people?
Oh, okay. So if it's, I've got a few. It can't be just one. So
Okay.
if it's, especially on to startups and entrepreneurship, as your audience is for, I would say if you're just starting out and you're on the journey to entrepreneurship, then Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is the one that is like how to control your mind and control the hardship that approaches you. Specifically around startups, Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz, the venture fund, The Hard Thing About Hard Things is like the most visceral example of the startup journey and the hardship that you go on. Then more tactical, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, how to think about your business and what to be doing or not doing. The Innovator's Dilemma, like very present at the minute because of AI and how it's going to disrupt the incumbents. So that's a spot on book. And if you're just starting out, a must-have is the mum test, which is how to interview customers and how to interview who your potential customers are to understand, have I got a real problem here, or is it a bad idea?
And that's called the mum test?
The mum test, yes.
Okay. MUM.
MOM test.
MOM. And does MOM stand for something?
No, just the mum.
Okay.
As in the mum. The mum test is basically, yeah, if you were going to how you interview people, and people, they would normally come up with an idea for a starter. They go to their mum and say, "I'm going to do this," and she say, "Oh yes, darling, that would be great." That's not the way to do it. It's not the way to do it. There's a particular way to extract knowledge and insight from potential customers, and the mum test is a quick book that says do these things, ask these questions, and you'll be a lot further down the line from if you follow that.
These are excellent book suggestions. Well, thank you, Glenn. I've been looking forward to our discussion since you are a co-founder of an AI-first company. I want to thank and give a shout out to Stephen Karen, episode, I believe, number 25. He's the one that referred me to you, and you were friends, and there's a connection there with Kaizan and Scale.
Yeah.
So I'm so it's just been my pleasure, and I'm so happy that Stephen introduced us to each other. And I just want to thank you for being so generous with your time today and all the things that you've shared. This is going to be I can't wait to publish this episode because there's so much knowledge that you've shared for people who are either entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs. So thank you, Glen.
Awesome, Carl. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. Enjoyed it.